In Menominee, it's Nice. In Ojibwe, it's Nij. You notice the similarity there, right? They both start with an N, then they have a kind of an E sound, and then they end with sounds that seem somewhat related, Sutnja, right? Whereas look at Oneida, Tekni. See any relationship there? None, right? Look at Ho-Chunk, Noop, Noop, right? So we can go through, so we see, aha, something's going on with Menominee and Ojibwe. They seem related here. Their words are related. Then we look at 4. In Menominee, it's Neo. In Ojibwe, it's Niwin. Again, you can see a similarity, right? But look at Oneida, Kaye, right? Jop in Ho-Chunk, totally unrelated, right? And then water, Nebeo, Nebe, we can see a relationship. Oneka and Ni. Gizo, this Q is what's called a glottal stop. Gizis in Ojibwe. But by doing these sorts of comparisons, sound by sound, right? We can start with the N in 2, and then we can go to the vowel, and then we can go to the third consonant. We can, to the third sound, to the consonant. We can pretty much figure out actually what the word probably sounded like in the original language. We can be that confident about this reconstruction. But obviously, there's no way we can get from Oneida to Menominee and Ojibwe, and that's why we say these are related and unrelated languages. And when I say unrelated, I mean really unrelated, right? You can see that. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Ojibwe here. Ojibwe is considered among the most likely Aboriginal languages of North America to survive for very long, mostly because of the large number of speakers in Canada. But you can see here, these are stats from 2009, collected by Ojibwe people, so they're quite reliable. And you can see the numbers for the communities in Wisconsin. St. Croix, 25, Lac-Courte 10, Lac de Flambeau 3, Bad River 2, Red Cliff 1, Mole Lake 1. So that's 25, 35, 40, 42 speakers of Ojibwe remain in the state of Wisconsin. More in Minnesota, right, 400 at Red Lake. But you see these numbers are very, very, very low. And in many of these communities, the language is not spoken as, a language of common usage, obviously. But people are working very hard, and what I want to talk about here is many, many communities are going to programs of immersion, where kids are educated in schools that are wholly in Ojibwe. This is a massive undertaking, and I'll show you a little bit of what issues are involved. But there's a school in Hayward called Wadukudading, which basically means helping each other. And this is an Ojibwe immersion school. It's been very successful due to the phenomenal efforts of the fiercely dedicated teachers. Here's Lisa Larange. Her husband, also Keller Papp, is involved in this school. And I just want to show you a little bit of what's involved. When you develop a curriculum for education and you have to pass all the requirements of the state of Wisconsin, you have to teach certain subjects. Many of these subjects do not have vocabulary in the traditional language, so you have to come up with a complete curriculum. You have to invent many, many words in your language to deal with that curriculum. So people are undertaking these beautiful projects. Here's one project that was done in Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and they produced a vocabulary book to help teachers in immersion schools. And the title of this is Ani Nekidong, how does one say it, right? And they gathered together a bunch of very fluent elders. You can see the group of people in this picture. These young people, Lisa's there, Keller, her husband's there. Linguist John Nichols over in the back on the far right, just retired from the University of Minnesota. They work together to study both traditional vocabulary and coin new words that were needed for their educational curriculum. Here's just a couple of examples. I just took one page out of this book, but we can see, I love the fourth one down. See what that is? That's the @ sign, right, in your email address. You need a way to describe that, so they've come up with abibiigan. We have condensation, right, abwebig, because obviously this is something that you teach when you teach science, that sort of thing. So they've, and the richness of the language allows you to have things like you see abweyabikut, right, up there, condense on glass or metal, because Ojibwe has a classifier system that classifies things into organic solids, inorganic solids, sheet-like objects, string-like objects, etc. And so you get these really fascinating words. But things like this, right? Agasibi, again, you need to be able to distinguish lowercase, uppercase in your language to talk about, to have a basic curriculum. You basically just have to produce a massive amount of vocabulary, design your curriculum, teach it. Imagine doing that, right? You really have to be very, very dedicated, and these people are, and their schools have been successful. Okay. Another project that many people have been working on is the Ojibwe People's Dictionary. We're now going digital. This is another massive project done again mostly by people in Wisconsin, but also people in in Minnesota, but also people in northern Wisconsin. This is a digital dictionary. It's online. You can Google Ojibwe People's Dictionary and go there and take a look at this. It's very beautiful, tens of thousands of words, and they have things like, I'm not going to play anything here, but they recorded many, many elders pronouncing words, so you can get the pronunciation of words. They give various inflected forms. Languages like Latin and Greek you may be familiar with, they have what are called inflections, so you put prefixes and suffixes on to indicate first person, second person, subject, object, et cetera, et cetera. Well, these languages have very, very rich inflectional systems, and so they give many of these. They even go so far because Algonquian words tend to have more than one meaning component. And so when you learn a concept like run in English, right, you just learn this word, run. But in a language like Ojibwe, it's actually a part of a word, use. And that's the part, I'm talking about walk. I'm sorry, my example is walk. Walking, you use use to indicate walking, and bim is along. So this word bimuse, that means he or she walks along, actually has two parts. This dictionary goes so far as to analyze words, and we can see all the words that have to do with walking, put them together. So all of these words end with use. Animose means to walk away, because anim means going away. Agimuse means to walk in snowshoes. Agim is a snowshoe. These are really cool words, are they not? Bimwewe dawanguse. That means to walk along on a sandy surface in such a way as to be audible. Okay? And this beautiful language, is it not? But each of these pieces, along, sound, sand, walking, right? So a learner of these languages doesn't simply learn this long, long word. Obviously you have to, but it's very, very useful to know the parts and learn the parts, so that when you see awang or dawang inside a word, you know that means sand, right? And so a lot of our work, our linguistic work, is doing this kind of analysis and making it available for people to use for their own resource in their language programs. Another issue, I mentioned briefly that these languages have rich inflectional systems. I've made a dictionary that will produce the Ojibwe inflectional systems for verbs, so you get basically all of the fundamentally basic forms of a given verb. Now, Latin, you may know, was once considered to be, the language. The old saying is the brain is a muscle, and the way you exercise it is with Latin inflections, right? Latin has several hundred inflections, but Ojibwe has around 6,000 basic ones. So to learn this is a daunting challenge. So what I did is I just wrote code to be able to produce for learners all of these different forms for any verb in this dictionary. And that's another way that we linguists can provide useful tools for people.